changed, and he spends most of his time now down at Mar-a-Lago.
Hi.
This plane is on.
Hello, we're back for more celebration. I have ice cream.
If you've been living under a rock lately, it is because he
Yay.
downtown.
So anyway, welcome. It's early, very early. I thought would be here till 3, but he's gotten in early. This is Trump's plane about to land in New York. Yeah, for his arrest tomorrow. And this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted this man to face justice with lawyers in a courtroom and evidence, and based on the evidence, hopefully to be held accountable. I do not want him ill. I do not want him to pass away. I do not want any I do not wish any negativity on this man. I just wish justice. That's it. So if anybody is like, you shouldn't be happy about the misfortune of others, it's like, oh no, you don't understand. I've waited for years. We have waited for years for this. And I have been laser focused on this is what I want. So I'm just, it's glorious. Apparently Eric's on the, is on the plane with him?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Rose Blue, Con Air 1, ready to land.
The Washington Post report and the significance contributes.
Well, it's a 30-minute ride to the tower.
How do you see it? How
really?
Significant is it if it's emails, texts, potentially?
Oh, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, we're not monetized, so we can watch this together.
I know that she worked at the White House. She went with him to Mar-a-Lago and then resigned.
Exactly, Melissa. He gloated on everyone else's misfortunes. Absolutely.
What kind of bulk credibility does this kind of evidence portray?
Well, emails and
we're just going to listen a bit because I've got ice cream to eat.
Of course, it depends on what that says, but oftentimes people get very careless in what they put in emails and text messages.
Oh, goodness.
That someone outside of their small group are going to see the content of those messages. And so I think what they are looking for here is evidence of obstruction of justice. You know, ordinarily when someone inadvertently retains classified documents, it does not become a criminal case. Sometimes it could be a basis for discipline or termination of a job, but it only rises to the level of a criminal case when there's some aggravating factor, like this loyalty to the United States. You know, you're selling them to an adversary. Or
yes, Sunflower Shanty. Will you look at that?
Investigators from knowing what I have, and that's when it can be much more serious.
If I could share my ice cream with you, I wouldn't have heartbeat. Absolutely.
From the Biden or the Pence.
I specifically bought some last night.
Messages show
some
sort of efforts to conceal the documents and to lie to the Justice Department and cover things up. That could be very powerful evidence of obstruction of justice that would make this a chargeable crime.
Yeah, just want to let everyone know again, we're watching Trump Force One, that 757 that Donald
Trump Force One. Why are you calling it that?
Oh, dear Jesus.
Manhattan in the background. We saw the Triborough Bridge. He's coming in for a pretty smooth landing there at LaGuardia Airport. Should be touching wheels down within about the next minute or so. Let me ask you how this contributes to Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation, this kind of evidence. Does it indicate to you the level of which they are mining for information or where it might stand?
It's difficult to know. Sometimes those kinds of things are done earlier in an investigation, but sometimes you don't become aware of the value of particular witnesses until later in an investigation.
We have a long wait ahead of us after tomorrow. It's going to be months, but interspersed with other indictments.
Because sometimes witnesses can
hopefully many other indictments.
They can have their credibility attacked. But when you have documents, you know, they don't lie.
But at least with this,
that's why that kind of evidence.
He's there. He's safe.
So
good.
If it is what it purports to be.
Oh goodness, Kevin's saying it's 96 degrees
that could lean toward
in Texas.
Yeah, and again, for everyone watching, you've seen Trump Force One.
Yes, Melissa, 45 burned this.
LaGuardia Airport, about 2.5 hours after flying from West Palm Beach. It will park in a place that it knows very well. Donald Trump has kept this plane at LaGuardia during his years living primarily in New York City. It was pretty much much there for just about anybody to see when you were driving along the Grand Central Parkway heading in and out of Manhattan. So I'm sure it will go over to someplace near where it was typically parked. Although there is going to be a tremendous amount of security, we've been told that there'll be NYPD, Secret Service, all forms of security to make sure that Donald Trump is escorted as quickly, as directly, and as safely as possible to his Manhattan home on Fifth Avenue there at Trump Tower. So timing, Barbara, as we go
I'm
back
with you,
to this
Nikki.
case,
Trump Force One, how
everything
original.
may have been, I guess, included in this Washington Post report. Is it all about the timing of when these things occurred? I mean, for instance, let's look at the emails and with this former assistant, Molly, to the president, who's allegedly texts and emails are included here. If it happened before our National Archives reached out to him, if it happened before the FBI had reached out to him, DOJ, anybody else, would that be admissible as evidence, or is that sort of deep background?
Just soak it in.
Well, I think all of it is potentially
Soak it in.
evidence. You know, there are hearsay rules that keep certain things out. But if you have business records that were prepared for the purpose of transacting business, those are exempted from the hearsay rules and are allowed as evidence in a case.
All
And so,
those times
the earlier ones before
that Barr
there's an effort by the
interfered
Justice Department to get these may be less
when he
probative
fired
about obstruction
Comey,
of justice. But once the Justice Department starts asking
when he
questions,
separated
and certainly
families,
once it serves the subpoena, if you have email or text messages,
when he violated the
indicating an
emoluments
effort to move
clause,
boxes around, or to get stories straight, or to lie to investigators about certain kinds of things, which is
when he inspired
seems to be the gist of
insurrection.
the reporting, that can be some very powerful evidence of obstruction of justice. You know, an important part of that is a corrupt
Oh,
intent,
hang on. Lost sound.
and that means wrongful. That I knew what I was doing was deceptive to the Justice Department, who wanted these things back. You know, it's one thing to say, I kept these documents because I believe them to be mine. And it's quite another to say,
Yes, Lady Eva, when he put Cohen in jail, I wanted to keep Cohen in jail for writing a book.
It sounds like that's the kind of thing that they have here. So I would imagine anything, you know, before, during, or after the request by the Justice Department could be admissible. But I think the ones after the Justice Department gets involved would be the ones that could be the most damning.
But again, before I get to some of our correspondents who are standing by, who are really keeping a very close eye on Donald Trump and his activity, when you talk about that which Donald Trump claimed first, saying these are mine, I thought they were mine. Let's not even go into when he said I made them mine because I thought it in my head. Let's not go there. But the fact that he thought they were his.
Okay, I'm trying to down just for 1 second to say, I realize that this is maybe a couple of minutes behind by the time it gets to me and then goes back out through StreamYard to you. I understand, but this is the best I can do. So, just so you know.
They are not yours. They do not belong to you. At some point, he is on notice as to what the law is. So retention of classified documents does require this willfulness, that you know what you're doing is against the law. And so if somebody doesn't know that, that could be a valid defense. But once someone explains to you that, no, they do not belong to you, the Presidential Records Act was passed purposely in the wake of the Nixon administration to make it clear that these documents belong to the United States of America, to the people. At that point, I think that defense vanishes. And then I also think that if there is evidence that he was actively concealing his continued retention of these documents, and that just conflicts with that defense altogether.
Okay. Barbara, please don't go anywhere, because we're following a lot of different angles as we watch Donald Trump's plane, Trump Force One, as it is commonly called, actually come to a full stop there. And we'll see what measure of security greets that plane shortly there on the tarmac at LaGuardia. But let's go right now to NBC correspondent Dasha Burns. She is standing at her post outside of Trump Tower here in Midtown, about a stone's throw away from where we are. Dasha, you are clearly aware that Donald Trump's plane, his plane has landed, but is anybody there around you aware of this? Are people watching, you know, minute by minute, that kind of thing, Donald Trump's movements from Florida here to New York?
Well, I'll tell you this, Alex, the folks around here are certainly asking us every couple of minutes, what's going on? Where is he? Has he landed? When is he getting here? As you know, Midtown is an area where both...
You know, there's that joke about Fox News is for Republicans, MSNBC is for Democrats, and CNN is for airports. So I would think that have all over the place that have the news.
this area, preparing for the former president's arrival and preparing for whatever will unfold here in the next 12 to 24 hours. Look, right now, things are quiet here, but we do expect things to ramp up, especially tomorrow. Now, New York City's Mayor Eric Adams gave a security briefing earlier today, along with the NYPD commissioner, saying that NYPD is prepared, saying they are always prepared, but there are going to be a lot of eyes on this city tomorrow. He did say, though, that there are no credible threats to New York City at this time, but had a pretty stern warning for what he said are any rabble-rousers coming to this city to air any grievances. He says you can exercise your First Amendment right, but stay calm. They expect peaceful protests, but they are certainly ready to go to make sure that that is the case here, Alex.
Okay, Dasha, thank you so much. I'm sure more and more people will be gathering as the word gets out that Donald Trump has landed and will be making his way to Trump Tower. A lot of people want to take a look at him while they have him right there up close and personal. Don't go too far, Dasha. We'll be checking in with you again. We're going to come back to the studio right now.
I love
I'm
that,
joined
Lori.
by two
You had to fly
extraordinary
directly over
attorneys, one of
Rikers.
whom we spoke with earlier, Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, and we also have Laura Jarrett with us as well. So let me ask you both, and I'll have you, Laura, answer first. When you think about what might be going through Donald Trump's mind, and you think about what he faces tomorrow in this arraignment, how long is it going to be? How much of an issue is it going to be for him? I mean, what kind of treatment will he get? Something special to a degree, but he has to be what? He has to be fingerprinted. He has to potentially give a mugshot. I mean, talk about what would normally happen as we watch the staffing there come off of Trump Force One. We'll see Donald Trump, I'm sure, as well. Secret Service attorneys and the like accompanying him from Florida.
Well, that's what's part of what's so striking about what we're watching play out is most criminal defendants who appear in court in New York City do not come by private plane
Or Secret Service.
or Secret Service protection.
Yeah.
But there are other, parts of this process that he can't avoid, even though obviously he's the former president of the United States. And he has to appear in person. I think there had been some speculation about whether he would try to fight this, whether some part of this could have been done, via teleconference or behind closed doors. The fact is he's going to have to actually appear in person for that arraignment and enter a plea of not guilty, just like every other criminal defendant in America and in New York City does. Now, as for the fingerprinting, that we will not see. That is not something that anyone typically sees. As for the mugshot, I think there's a little bit of discrepancy right now in some of the reporting about whether or not he'll even do that. Under New York law, as we understand it, that's not typically released to the public after a law that was passed a couple of years ago. Absent some extraordinary law enforcement reason, that's not something we would typically see. Unclear whether it will happen at all. That is also goes for the DNA swab. That's something that most defendants would turn over. Unclear whether Donald Trump is going to be forced to give a DNA sample in this case. That's something to watch. I'm also tracking what exactly the judge says to him about what he can say. He is running for public office.
Gag order.
It's not beyond the realm of possibility. Now, everyone I've talked to, I'm interested in Karen's thoughts on this. Everyone I've talked to has said there are serious First Amendment implications about gagging the former president of the United States, who is running for public office.
Hang on a second. Would that be?
I just want to share.
If you had a regular criminal defendant, you're saying
Kevin was saying he's taking so long. He's smuggling stolen documents off the plane.
That he is a former president because he has a platform that he's trying to run for president again.
No, but obviously the First Amendment implications, I think.
Terry Solaris was saying, I was willing his plane to save time and land at Rikers.
To defend themselves and make public statements attesting to.
We can make it work.
There's nothing wrong with that. The issue here is that the types of statements that he's
That's
making,
the pilot.
can be perceived as threats or incitement to violence. Certainly holding up a baseball bat next to the picture of the district attorney. Now he took it down, but still doing that
He put it up.
is the issue, and whether that could be perceived as a threat. Directly to attacking the judge, calling him a Trump-hating judge for apparently no reason at all. We have no evidence of that. And so it's those types of things that I think it'd be interesting to see how, if at all, all, one, the district attorney addresses them tomorrow, and maybe the judge just on his own decides to give sort of an admonishment of sorts to remind everybody about the fact that a jury pool can be tainted in this case. The defendant has a right to a free and obviously a right to a fair trial.
Sure.
So to see how the judge treats it, and maybe perhaps without anyone raising it at all, just on his own.
Karen, given your time working in the Manhattan DA's office, what do you know about Judge Marchand? Do you believe that a gag order is something he would consider seriously, if not invoke one?
So Judge Marchand is a very well-respected judge who has been in New York County for quite some time. He's not known as a prosecutor's judge or a defense judge. He's sort of a down-the-middle judge, and he's very much
Lori, he was not smuggled
control
out
your
in a suitcase.
courtroom,
There's
and
not...
he doesn't allow the kind of circus that Donald Trump is going to try and create there. And so he's a great judge. He will, I'm sure he is considering what his options are. And I would be surprised if there would be a gag order for the reasons that Laura was saying about the First Amendment. But the fact of the matter is he cannot taint the jury pool. And that's what he's ultimately, that's what a gag order ultimately seeks to address, is so that you can get a fair trial. Now, he's also saying he wants a change of venue because he claims he can't get a fair trial
in New York City.
But he's the one who's creating that situation. And
let me tell you, there's proof of that. And I understand Mrs. Garrett Hake is with us as well. And Garrett, you've been monitoring Donald Trump while on board his plane, traveling for the last 2.5 hours. He's been posting, apparently. Can you give us a sense of what he's been saying?
I'm not trying to ruin anybody's day. It's just, please do
Alex,
not joke
do
about
it when you're waiting to
violence.
get off a plane, sitting there scrolling through your social media. It appears that's exactly what Donald Trump's been doing since his plane's been on the ground. Just in the last 2 minutes, he posted on Truth Social, his Twitter clone platform, where he posts so many of his messages, a video of the crowds that were along the route in Palm Beach. And he writes to people, if you're doing poorly, don't send anything. But if you're doing well, you should donate to his campaign. And he posts a link to the Donald J. Trump campaign. It's just so noteworthy. I've said this before. The degree to which he is mixing his personal legal issues, which this, again, is a legal issue that predates his time in the White House. It goes back to the 2016 campaign, with his current 2023, 2024 political prospects. Here, using this indictment, this arraignment, as a fundraising tool while he is getting ready to get off his plane to come into the city for his arraignment tomorrow. And Alex, the striking thing about it is it's been working for him. The Trump campaign announced while the former president was in the air, they've raised $7 million so far since news of this indictment was first reported on Thursday night. $4 million of that came within the first 24 hours. So they've managed to keep up a steady clip of about $1 million a day ever since then. Much of it, the campaign has said, from new donors, much of it from relatively small donors. And this isn't happening entirely organically, Alex. I mean, they're really aggressively pushing for this in emails to their supporters, in text messages, and to these posts, which the former president does with some regularity to his followers on Truth Social. Not as big of a platform as he had on Twitter. He only has about 5 million followers on Truth Social, a fraction of what he had when he was more active on Twitter. But again, in that case, a platform he designed, he's preaching almost entirely to the choir here. And it's worked for him in a purely political sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we are here looking at this plane, I'm going to have joining us in the conversation right now, New York Times investigative reporter Suzanne Craig. Suzanne won a Pulitzer Prize for her reporting on Donald Trump's finances. There's also an extraordinary article. So I say welcome, Suzanne.
I agree, Kevin.
Back in 2016, when he was campaigner in chief, if you will, about that plane. And there are a lot of people who'd love to know a little bit about what that plane is like. We know it's a 757. I believe, thanks to your reporting, it was built in 1991. But you were on board. Give us a sense of what it's like, because we hear about his apartment being so gilded with gold, this, that, and the other. Is that reflected as well on the plane?
I saw some pictures earlier today.
Well, I actually haven't been in the plane, but I've seen videos of it, and I did a fair bit of work on it. It was sort of interesting that the plane, when I was covering aspects of his finance in 2016, and I was talking to somebody on Wall Street, and they said, they found it very odd that Donald Trump was flying around in that particular plane. Sort of, it was a sign that he maybe wasn't as wealthy as he says, just simply because it's such an old plane, and it got me interested in the plane itself, and I started looking into it. And he bought it off of Paul Allen, one of the co-founders of Microsoft, and has completely refurbished it in that, after he bought it. But it's a real gas guzzler. Somebody once said to me, it's like buying a bag of Cheetos. You get a lot of food for not a lot of money. And I was surprised that he didn't get a new plane this time around. He opted. After the election, it was sort of grounded. There were some problems with it, and he also, had Air Force One for 4 years when he was president, and so they refurbished it. I kind of thought he might buy a new plane, but they put a lot more money into it, and it's back on the in use now for the campaign and for things, I guess, like this, oddly.
Yeah, it seats a lot of people. I mean, it's 757, right? I think it's got probably close to a couple hundred seats potentially.
It could have fit 200 people if it was a commercial airliner. And I think it's noteworthy that he's using this today, because he could have come up in a much smaller plane. I mean, this is all done for performance. Rather than,
and
I
it's
think,
expensive
than anything
as heck.
else.
I worked at an
he
FBO.
chose to, it's a very expensive plane to fly, and they could have come up in a
smaller one.
He's got a smaller plane, or he could have come up in somebody else's plane.
Which he will take to different campaign events as well, unless he wants the performative look of this, standing next to an airplane hangar. We saw that so much. Let me ask you to pause just 1 second, because Garrett Hake is back with us again. Garrett's been on the plane. What's your takeaway of what that was like when you've been aboard Trump Force One, Garrett?
To him?
Well, Alex, just to add to that, I mean, I was on a plane a few weeks ago. It has been recently refurbished, and has been, this is a plane that's been entirely remodeled on the inside. I'm watching the stairs here, too, to see who we see coming down.
Donald Trump has just left that staircase. Yeah, he's on the tarmac and getting right now into the Suburban. That is him. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that the plane is not configured like your typical 757. It has probably only a few dozen seats. And one of the things that I'll be very interested to find out, and I don't have the answer right now, but because he has so many campaign aides on the plane with him, I wonder if this is being billed in some way as a campaign trip. In that case, all that fuel can be billed to the campaign and reimbursed with all those fundraising dollars that I just talked about. In the same way that, by the way, the seats for all those Secret Service agents who fly with them, sometimes maybe half a dozen, 10 or more, are paid for by Secret Service, i.e. taxpayer dollars. So, how the campaign is treating this flight. Is this a personal expense for Donald Trump? Is it an expense for the Trump organization? Or is it being billed to the Donald Trump campaign? Again, to that central question of the intermingling of Mr. Trump's personal legal issues and candidate Trump's 2024 prospects play out, even in something like how the flight is put together and to whom it's billed.
Yeah, you make a really good point. You'd have to wonder if this particular flight would be able to fall under the auspices of a campaign trip, because we know there's a lot more to it. Maybe the one going back, because he is going to be speaking at Mar-a-Lago tomorrow night, and you know that he will certainly invoke campaign rhetoric on that as well as no doubt grievances against what he's had to go through for the previous 24 hours. We'll see. Of course, it's up to others to find out what the answer would be. Suzanne, back to you with regard to the experience on the plane. I know you saw it in video, but it's the kind of thing that Donald Trump uses, and we said for the performative aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't care about the plane. Okay. Another questions. Let me pull up the...
There hasn't been a lot in chat.
Fair enough.
There's been a lot of comments, but not really.
I'm just happy. Okay. I'm just happy that you guys are here. Thank you. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to get things sorted out on my end here. Okay. Hit refresh. Okay. Kelly B says, honestly, guys, I'm so worried. Worried his followers might completely freak out. There might be maybe somebody attacked Biden. I'm happy and scared all the time. Oh, don't be scared. Oh, really, don't be scared. No, and this jerk is not worth it. He really isn't. Paula, is it standard to have an ambulance there waiting? Yeah.
Private. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on something this high profile and yeah. Rob D says Midtown traffic will be okay. It'll clear just like other motorcades. Okay. Faye is saying, would not surprise me, an extra grifter's delight. Ooh. Okay, hang on. Kristen from Uncover the News, thank you for all your great headlines. News, they're now covering Trump's luggage, which may or may not contain sensitive documents. Ho ho. Hello, Fred. Ho ho. Hello, Roller Derby. Alyssa says yes, medical staff is SOP. Nikki's asking about Melania. She's not about to divorce. She's under contract. That's all I ever get. She's under contract. She's under contract. She wants the most amount of money possible, and she thinks this is humiliating, and she is extremely unhappy about it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know that this in particular is something that will interest them. Certainly,
It's so good. So, what else did I see earlier?
It is a historically significant matter. I don't know that it is terribly significant when it comes to decisions by other prosecutors' offices. Whether someone is charged in another jurisdiction, really shouldn't impact a decision they're making.
Just having a look to see if there were any questions I could read on. Okay.
If there was, I missed them. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Kristen says, just in, Trump team tells judge to deny media request to have the cameras in court. All right, let's check the cameras in court. Okay. I know, Miss Sarah, I know you're leaving in about 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, but I can go ahead and start with the timestamps.
Okay, thank you. So, cameras. Yes, Larry, exactly. White Bronco on the way. On his way. That's awesome. Mel would like to know if there's going to be a gag order. Starhawk is saying the mayor and police chief said they'd have rolling roadblocks. Okay. Cameras in the courtroom.
How unique is that? Or would you presume it would be sort of par for the course with regard to somebody who's this high profile?
So cameras in the courtroom is a new concept that has been more
Speaking of which,
being allowed in New York. It used to be not at all you cover sketch artists. More and more it's discretionary and allowed up to the court, to the defense, the prosecution, the witnesses, et cetera. So this is the type of case where they would absolutely consider it, but it's unclear where what the judge will decide. Again, it cuts both ways with Mr. Trump, right? If, like, say he imposes a gag order and he no longer can talk about the case, go around telling everybody how he wants to tell them and talk about him, but he's not being allowed to. And it's just further example that he's being railroaded. He'll use that to his advantage, right? Well, there is no gag order, then he'll talk about the facts and try to win in the court of public opinion. So everybody's weighing these different things. Cameras in the courtroom are the same thing, right? You let them in and he'll say they're trying to create a circus. You keep them out and they'll say, I wanted everyone to see what was happening, but they're trying to hide it from you.
Yeah.
So there's so many considerations that everybody's thinking about right now.
Absolutely. And for those of you from the watching this with us and seeing from the air there, Donald Trump is just departing the property that is officially LaGuardia, and he'll be taking to the Grand Central Parkway to make his way west into Manhattan. It'll be very interesting to see the extent to which he'll be able to avoid areas of traffic, as it looks like they're going to merge on it momentarily. He has certainly a police escort, and they'll do their very best. Traffic, though, seems to be doing quite well right now, and I think that may be because a lot of schools are on spring
watching
break,
traffic
so
is
he
boring.
may have actually lucked out a bit with not having to go through too severe Manhattan and New York City traffic right now. As we watch him make his way, Laura, when it comes to what we're going to be watching for tomorrow, what is top of mind for you? What indicates to you that this is going to be a tough time for Donald Trump, or that it's something that he's well prepared for, his attorneys are, and they're going to get through this, seemingly okay in terms of logistics?
The logistics are one thing. The logistics, obviously, security officials are well
That
prepared.
poor guy on that
they have
bicycle,
experience
like,
for this.
whoa.
They've done, many cases involving high-profile defendants in the past, and they know how to do their jobs when it comes to the security piece of it. As for the legal piece of it, which obviously we're all interested in, is what exactly is in that indictment that we are also eagerly awaiting to see unsealed.
And how is that going to be unsealed? I mean,
great question.
2:15, he goes in there.
Yeah.
Is there audio that we'll be able to hear? Will there be something that's sent out?
A media coalition, including NBC and others, is trying to get the judge to allow us, obviously,
he's
to
not
be,
gonna spend the night in jail.
able to broadcast everything we can. It remains to be seen whether Judge Merchan will go for that. It might be a case where he just allows a still photographer to be there for the sort of the top of the hearing and the back half. He's done that in a prior case. It was interesting to see the district attorney not weighing in one way or another on whether to allow cameras.
And does Donald Trump, Karen, does he have to stand the whole time and with his attorneys, and does he have every charge read to him and he has to stand? And does he have to acknowledge and say, yes, I understand? Is it in bulk or with each significant one?
So he has a right to, yes, he will be standing, and he has a right to have each charge read to him. But most of the time, the defense attorney waives that, and they just inform him of what he's being charged with, and they arraign him and ask him how he pleads, and he usually says not guilty.
And how long is that going to take? What do you think, Laura?
It could just be a matter of minutes, depending on sort of any other statements that the Trump attorneys decide to make, or the district attorney's office decides to make. If they do read the waiving of the indictment, it's sort of an interesting move by Trump's attorneys to not have that read into the record publicly when we still haven't seen the actual indictment, and there's some question about the actual logistics of it, right? There have been some cases where you've seen the indictment unsealed just before the hearing takes place, so where you can all pour through it and try to understand what's in it while the hearing is taking place. Sometimes you might not see it actually unsealed until after the judge takes the bench, in which case, we'll be all dissecting it in.
Okay, I'm turn that down for just a second. Cindy Lou was asking, are any of his children going to be there to support him? Eric was on the plane with him.
Yeah,
He's
Eric.
tweeting.
Ivanka won't be there.
Yeah, Ivanka won't be there, but Eric was on the plane with him. So, and the question I was asked was about cameras in the courtroom. I'm still I'll have to pull some more cards, because what I've got is, it's up to the judge of ruling. I've got justice, and I don't know what it is. I know that this judge, Juan Marchand, is a man, but I keep getting I don't know if it's just the power of women or what, but I keep getting the judge, I keep getting like a she. There's some overarching energy of feminine justice, maybe. There's something, but anyway, it'll be a choice. I've got
somebody with brag, maybe Bragg's first chair is female.
Could be. This is the justice card, and they don't want chaos. The judge is worried about it. Is worried about appeals, about chaos. But right here, I've got a whole lot of worry and a prosecutor. I would think I would get different cards if it was a yes, but also different cards if it was a no. Lady Justice, Tish L. That could very well be it. That probably is. Lady Justice, that must be it. Because boy, the energy is very, very feminine. Cameras in the courtroom. Ace of Cups. This needs to be televised for the sake of the country.
Yeah.
So things cannot be spun. So things cannot be, and Trump's people don't want it televised because they don't want the embarrassment, because they know they're going to lose. I'm not telling him that, but they know they're going to lose. Insult to injury. The Trump side is going to throw all kinds of dirt and garbage at this. Absolutely. They're going to act like fools.
Mm-hmm.
About the money and relationship. Very embarrassing for Melania as well. I'm not getting a straight answer. That is most vexing for me. Sometimes I don't get straight answers.
I'm going to need you to refresh. I need to step over and hop on the other.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. And take your time. And I've got that until, whenever.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. Thank you.
See you all later.
Yes. Yes, Leslie. O.J. Trumpson. Intention is everything. Judge said no cameras. Judge is a man. Has Marchand ruled already? I haven't heard. I've heard there's a lot of talk, but I haven't heard that he's actually ruled.
And the media footprint, global media footprint here, folks from around the world coming to cover this. You heard the Trump campaign in their response to the whole motion to have cameras in the courtroom described not wanting to contribute to a media circus. The circus has been slowly coming to town over the last week or so. And
Thank you, lucky girl. No, it's a rumor. Okay.
Across the street on 100 Center Street from where Mr. Trump will be.
Lucky girl says they did televise the Alex Jones lawsuit with the Sandy Hook parents. Was that in Texas?
Media officers. And of course, there's all the stuff you don't see. Remember that the security preparations for tomorrow more than 2 weeks ago, it was the initial NBC News that security preparations for the possibility of this moment were underway. That is what triggered Donald Trump in the first place to post that he thought he would be arrested the following Tuesday. And so, there's a significant security apparatus put in place, so much so that the Secret Service has made it clear they're going to be very conservative. It is very unlikely we will see much of a hair from Donald Trump's head when he gets to the courthouse tomorrow morning.
Gotcha.
Alex.
Thank you so much, Garrett, for that. Our thanks also to Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, Barbara McQuaid, Laura Jarrett, Suzanne Craig. That's going to do it for me today. Deadline White House starts right now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Wallace. It's 4 o'clock right here in New York, where right now you are watching on the other side of your screen.
Yay. I just want to say, Roxy says, I think it will depend on how he acts in court when he's arraigned. I'm getting a big no, big suspension, Trump side happy, but aggressive law enforcement. I don't know that there's going to be, I think it's going to be complicated. Anyway, all right.
Being made even at this late hour. First, security. As you might well imagine, the NYPD is well aware of the possibility, the potential for violence tomorrow somewhere, as Trump has previously called on his supporters to protest. In a statement to NBC News, the NYPD reveals this, quote, officers have been placed on alert and the department remains ready to respond as needed. They add this, quote, there are no current credible threats to New York City. Ahead of the big day tomorrow, we're on the lookout for any specifics related to the actual charges that Trump now faces. Sources telling NBC News he faces about 30 criminal charges, very likely related to payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels back in 2016. It's something Trump has previously denied. As of this moment, the actual indictment remains under seal. But we should tell you, because this is one of those things that could change over the next 2 hours, NBC News this weekend joined a coalition of other news organizations in making 2 requests in the interests of transparency and the public interest. The first, that the indictment be immediately unsealed. The second, that cameras be allowed to watch Donald Trump's arraignment live as it happens. This afternoon, in a letter to the judge, Trump's lawyers insisted that cameras not be allowed inside the courtroom. So whether or not we get to watch this historic moment in court is just one of a number of open questions at this hour about how tomorrow will go. It is all fluid. We expect Trump to be processed at the courthouse. We expect, it's been reported, that he will be fingerprinted and then he will hear the charges. We do not expect Trump at any point to be handcuffed or put in a holding cell. DNA will likely not be collected. And whether or not a mugshot is taken is still one of those unknown and unclear issues. We do know that Trump will leave court under his own free will and that he plans to travel back to Florida before speaking out very publicly about the case against him tomorrow night. The eve of an unprecedented moment in American history is where we begin today. Former U.S. Attorney, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Harry Littman joins us. Also joining us, former RNC Chairman Michael Steele, plus former Senator Claire McCaskill is back. And with me at the table for the hour, Basil Smikle. He's a Democratic strategist and director of the Public Policy Program at Hunter College. I start with you, Michael Steele. I guess some of us could argue it was always going to end like this in early 2015 when we urged Republicans not to take this path, but here we are.
Here we are. Yes, a lot of us warned, and waved our arms and flailed about trying to say that this is not only bad branding.
Sorry, Michael. Why is no DNA being taken? Frankly, they probably already have it. If they need it, I would be floored if the federal government does not have the president's or ex-president's DNA. I would be floored. Because if there's a kidnapping, if there's something, if New York State needs Trump's DNA, they can just go, federal government, we need it, and federal government's going to go here. They're going to be, because of, think of what happened after 9/11 with the different parts of government talking to each other, federal and state. So I'm not worried about the DNA. But he should be kept in a holding cell. But okay, fine.
And it will be covered. And we are in this loop, Nicole, that we seemingly as a country can't get ourselves out of.
Rally.
For the last 7-8 years, we've talked about one person and one person only incessantly in our politics, and that's Trump. And we're looking at moments like this, and we're saying we're not outraged by it, we're not turned off by it, we're not disgusted by it. We're actually intrigued and we're curious. And it literally is like watching a reality TV series, and this is the next episode. And so, yeah, from both a party standpoint and a country standpoint, we're at a very, I think, seminal moment where we have to do some real hardcore soul searching and reevaluating of what our priorities are, because this shouldn't be it.
Yeah. Look, you've made this very meta, right?
Question.
I can share your queasiness with what we are watching, but I would posit this. For 8 years, he's been in charge, and today
there was a question, but now I can't find it.
Because Trump announced a rally in Manhattan. We're taking a motorcade because Trump has to appear in court tomorrow to be arraigned, because someone finally has the to say, you know what?
Yeah, I can't find it. Sorry.
He should, perhaps if a jury decides he's guilty of it, be held accountable the way all the rest of us are. This is different in some ways, Michael Steele, is it not?
It is, and I get that. I really do. But if there wasn't all this obsession beforehand, I mean, go back 3 weeks. What were we doing 3 weeks ago today? We were having a conversation about Trump being arrested on Tuesday when we knew damn well it wasn't happening. You know how we didn't know it was happening, Nicole? Because the DA didn't tell us it was happening on Tuesday. We listened to Trump and we go down that rabbit hole with him. And I do appreciate the point you just made about why this motorcade is different from one going to a rally. But in one sense, it really isn't. It is part of a continuation.
That is absolutely true. Hello, Becca from House of Lenormand. Hello, hello. Again, there was a question. Nikki's asking, will Michael Cohen have to testify if summoned? Well, he wants to. They say the word, he's going to be there. So,
I'm so glad you stirred this up, and I'm dying to get Harry and Claire and Basil in, but we're going to have this conversation right now because it has a bearing on everything we do through Election Day in 2024. So let's get this right. Let's get this right between us, and let's get this right as a show. I think that the gaslighting about how much money he's raised is one of the lines that, like, if he raised $80 million or $2, I don't care. And the notion that the indictment has somehow bumped him to the top of the heap, he was already at the top of the heap. You got DeSantis gasping for air because Disney just kicked him in the knee. I mean, the notion that the indictment has done something good for him politically is pure gaslighting from his camp. And that's sort of where I draw some wonder that we're still falling for that.
I agree with that. I think you're absolutely right. You know, what, 5 million and counting so far. Certainly what's going to happen tomorrow night is already being previewed for us, right? It's already kind of being set in motion to get us anticipating, salivating for what he's going to say after spending a day getting processed. There's no other criminal. He's a criminal defendant, people. He is no different from the brother standing on that corner that his motivator is about to pass, and should be accorded the same way, in my view. Because I know if they came and knocked down my day and got me and drugged me out of here, y'all wouldn't have cameras at my front door. Y'all just wait till someone put out a press release. Yeah, he got processed. But this is what I'm talking about. What frustrates a lot of Americans is this bifurcation that we claim we don't have in our system as we augment it and show it anyway as something that is real. And I think we just need to be careful because the next 18 months is going to be this. It's going to be this. And I think we need to understand that from the outset and just be smart and prepared about it. Cover it, but cover it smartly.
I like that we've started here. I feel like the chairman has elevated our discourse and added a layer of responsibility that we should have. You know, again, I would argue that this is not a MAGA rally. He's heading to court to be arraigned and fingerprinted, and we may or may not see that as a country, but this is important.
Well, Michael gave a word. He certainly did that. And first and foremost, I want to just give a shout out to law enforcement here, to the Secret Service agents and the NYPD and the mayor who has briefed the city and said, look, if you don't start nothing, it won't be nothing. So just let's keep it quiet. And
biggest moment of the mayor's career today, I thought.
In many ways. And look, on the other side of this, we speak a lot about the militarization of our police departments, and we're talking about criminal justice reform. But the reality is that New York City Police Department is prepared for this. And at a moment's notice, they can get called up and be able to act decisively if there is any trouble. Having said that, I think Michael's absolutely right. You know, he talked about a reality show, and what's interesting is when you look at reality shows, in some way you say, "Oh my God, I'm glad I'm not them. Oh my God, that's who they are."
Okay, we're just talking at this point. Yes, Lisa, grift cam, aerial view, exactly. How is Trump feeling right now? 47. Basically what I've got for how is Trump feeling right now is he's talking. Well, he's a Gemini. Talking, looking for reassurance. He wants comfort. It's just business. He feels isolated. He feels abandoned. He doesn't have a leg to stand on. False business records are false business records. Jerk. So, exactly, Lucky Girl. He's just regular old individual one. Exactly. So, how's he doing? How's Michael Cohen feeling was another question, but you can just ask him. He's on Midas Touch. He's out there talking, and he will tell you exactly how he's feeling. And Melania, yes, Melania is capable of being embarrassed. She has all the materialistic narcissism. Excuse me. So, absolutely, she can be embarrassed if she's not being treated the way she believes she deserves to be.
It took months to percolate and simmer, and it was, berries that turned to jam, right? It was in the pot changing form, changing, they heard it, they made T-shirts, they processed it, they watched events, and then they acted on it on January 6th.
And I agree, but with everything that was said, we should not be normalizing that. It's not normal that a former president of the United States gets arrested and will be arraigned. That is not normal. But again, I go back to the earlier point. It is important to know what the fallout is going to be because
yes,
it will affect
she's no better than
it
her
affects
husband.
all of us.
Yeah.
This is Garrett Hake. Are you watching this? Or did you want to say something, Michael?
Yeah, just real quick.
Go.
I was at an event real quick. Just to your earlier point, I was at an event a while back where a former president was there. This was not what was greeted us when we came to that event. Yeah. And that's my point.
I take your point.
All of this was not how a former president of the United States arrives at a location. They don't block off blocks. There are no motorcades. There's none of that. They are private citizens who happen to be a former president.
Thank you.
And are accorded the protection that they well deserve. But this is what I'm talking about. Donald Trump, there's no difference between Donald Trump walking in that building and Joe Biden right now. And that's the problem as I see it.
I completely agree. Claire, let me bring you in on it. We saw the back of his head. We know his hair and his head is of great concern to him. He once refused to attend a ceremony at a military ceremony in Europe to honor the troops because his hair would get messed up. So you got to imagine he spent a long time on what his hair would look like for that walk we just saw. Claire McCaskill, jump in on all of this.
So there he is. He's in New York.
Well, first of all, let me just say that I believe that your show has some of the best producers in the business, and I get there's going to be a debate over how much coverage we give this guy under these circumstances. I will say this. I think the most interesting split screen might be what impact did J6 have on what's happening today and tomorrow? The split screen might be the tens upon thousands of people that gathered when he said it's going to be wild, and the massive amounts of people who turned out, and the relatively sparse crowds that lined his route to Trump Tower today. And tomorrow we'll see. We'll see if we've had a lot of lessons from January 6th that we're seeing right now. We're seeing preparation by the police. We're seeing active listening and monitoring and communication among those folks who watch things online to see if there's any credible threats. But maybe the most important thing we're going to see is deterrence. Are people deterred from coming out and being violent against law enforcement because of what happened in January 6th? Has the Trump base learned their lesson?
Okay, yeah. It isn't that the Trump base has necessarily learned their lesson. It's that the people who are best capable of organizing something are in the DC prison or have been, they're like, oh, I'm not doing that again. House of Lenormand, Becca, yes, he looks like he has a taxidermy on his head for a hairpiece. Yeah, it's like a bleached taxidermied squirrel on his head. Yes, I think he just replaces it every once in a while. MTG was not basically was told don't come here, so that's why she's not. That's why she's not around. And okay, they did. That's the crowd. That's the crowd, huh?
They're the best in the business, and so I'll underscore
that
point. And they have availed to us someone who's got.
Earlier today, I got a big death card on Trump with him going to New York, and not his physical death, but he's not going to get the kind of response that he wants. Becca's asking, did you see Secret Service is testifying in D.C. on Friday on the stolen documents case? Yes, I did. Yes, he's going to be arraigned tomorrow. At about, they say at about 2:15 Eastern time, which is about 1:15 Central time, which is when I will be on. I will be here for that.
Time I've spent on this street corner watching this courthouse and DA's office for signs of an impending indictment. the security footprint grows substantially. More barricades going up, more uniformed officers from the NYPD and from the New York Courts Department that protect this area being sort of more present and more visibly present. And to Senator McCaskill's point, I was here 2 weeks ago at the first planned protest outside this courthouse, when only a few dozen people showed up to protest on the former president's behalf. And so you've seen this very robust posture from the NYPD, a deterrence posture to be sure to say, we are here, we are prepared, and we'll see what happens if you decide to show up and test that. Now, we know that late last week, representatives from the Secret Service were here, from other law enforcement agencies, kind of scoping out the courthouse here, trying to figure out what's the best way to bring the former president in with the minimal amount of exposure, both for security purposes and publicity purposes. We are unlikely to see much of more than perhaps even just the shot we saw a second ago of him stepping out waving. We might see less than that tomorrow when he arrives here. Just the streets are narrow and tight. This would be the location for protests, and the Secret Service does not want to screw around with that. They want to get in and out with a minimum amount of disruption, something that the mayor underscored at his news conference today. And again, to the points about, kind of deterrence and January 6th and other protests, Mayor Adams and some of the other officials who spoke at that same press conference today went to great pains to say they've seen no indication of specific threats, no indications of large numbers of people coming here. It's the kind of sort of smaller scale protests, First Amendment action that New York City handles on a daily, if not hourly basis.
And I mean, New York City is, as Basil alluded to, Garrett, well trained in creating the space where an individual's First Amendment right to speech and the right to assembly are honored. But they also have unbelievable intelligence gathering. I think it's a police department where its intelligence capacity is studied the world over. And from that perspective, do you have any readout about what kind of people maybe in New York today and tomorrow who aren't normally here?
Well, I can only report the lack of information on that, Nicole, both from New York City's perspective and from the reporting that we've been able to do at NBC. There's no indication of the...
Oh, geez, I didn't mean to completely mute it. Sorry. I absolutely, that is a very important point. Suburban housewife, New Yorkers just going about their day in the background. Just doing their thing, taking a couple pictures, other people just walking by, who cares? At 56 minutes, and I had a question, will Trump be treated like a regular defendant at all? Or is it just going to be, he gets special this, he gets special that, he gets special this, special. And what I got was, well, on a basic level, yes, he has to be there. He has to go in person. He has to be fingerprinted. He has to be arraigned in person. And for the cards, this is a big change for him. And this is the beginning of aggressive law enforcement coming for him and him being hemmed in by it. He's going, I am getting some indication that he is going to run his mouth and try to stir up trouble to raise money and get people angry and emotional, and he's gonna get some kind of smackdown for that. I do keep getting that. So, but he's legal
challenges and the political
basically, yeah.
Right? I mean, you can't say we're only going to cover Donald Trump, the political candidate, and not cover the way he tries to take advantage of his own legal challenges, or to say this is a legal story or this is a political story. It's impossible. His campaign spent the entire flight pumping out emails to try to juice their fundraising, and then midway through the flight announced what their fundraising totals were on a flight that was stacked with campaign officials going to an arraignment, which is very much not a campaign event in the traditional sense. So like everyone else, watching a motorcade that looks reminiscent of O.J. Simpson is not what you expect to see from political coverage. But this is not a candidate who has ever ascribed to normal political rules. And so as strange as it is that the Venn diagram between the Trump campaign and the Trump legal apparatus and sort of problem-solving lawyers and what have you, that Venn diagram is a circle. You cannot separate these things, and we have to cover them together.
I think it might be shaped differently. I think of it as like a messy pile of branches or something, not a neat circle.
Okay. Starhawk is asking, is that a food dance or an indictment happy dance? Oh, that is an indictment happy dance, indeed. Lady Eva had a question. So at 58:30, the question was, will the realization really hit him tomorrow at the arraignment? So let me see what I can get on that one.
Well, look, Nicole, to those viewers that do not live in New York City, let me just set the scene here. This is Midtown Manhattan. We're on the corner of 57th and 5th Avenue, and this is an area where a lot of tourists gather. Normally, folks here are headed to the Lego store or doing some window shopping, but today, a lot of the people making their way through here have been coming by and stopping and asking us, where is the former president? What is the latest? What is going on? And so as they heard that he was getting closer, the crowds here grew. Just about everyone in this area has had their cell phones out, documenting every moment for the last half hour or so.
Of course. Okay, so Lady Eva? Yes, Lady Eva was asking about, will the realization of hit Trump tomorrow at the arraignment? The question is, in what way? I mean, he's not going to suddenly grow a conscience. He's not going to grow a sense of mea culpa or shame that does not involve lashing out. Because you have to remember, he has the emotional intelligence of a block of wood. And he has no coping skills. He has no coping skills for his emotions. So he just lashes out. It's a momentous moment of judgment just being arraigned. And I've got the Justice card and the 10 of Swords right behind that. So that's a big deal. Will the realization hit him tomorrow? It's all about him. This isn't a judge. This is, let me make myself big here. Hello. This is the judge. He's being hemmed in because he's the victim. And then this is all, I'm going to use this to stir people up and get my victory, blah, 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 blah. Thank you, lucky girl. Yes, message from the Borg. Resistance is futile. Exactly.
He'll show up. He'll be in a sort of interview room as opposed to a holding cell.
Interview room.
And we probably won't see it. They're going to try to keep it as buttoned down, notwithstanding MSNBC's motion. He'll hear the charges. And I think by the way, the indictment has to come out from under seal a little bit before 2:15, so he can absorb them and he can say he understands them to Justice Merchant. And how does he plead? Not guilty. And boom, that's it. And we have much more will ensue, but not with his presence. I mean, hearing everything of the last 15 minutes, Nicole, the words that really struck me as a former prosecutor is lack of ultimate control. There is the feel here of a reality show, but he's not the guy at the end of the day. It might be a very long day.
Yeah, Lady Eva said that what I meant is realization is that it's not a drama, it's serious.
Depending on what the New York jury
But
does. So all of this
he has narcissistic personality disorder. He has a nasty case of narcissistic personality disorder, which means everything, literally other people are not even separate from him. Everything exists to serve him. And what he wants when he wants it. He made his decisions. This is someone trying to hold him accountable, and he's the victim. Now, is it real? Is it serious? Is it not? It's just attacking him. That's all that matters. I know it's kind of hard to describe, but he doesn't think the way we do. Is it drama? It's about him. Is it real? It's about him. I hope that makes sense. Because all that matters is it's about him. and how he can make, how he can benefit from it. That's it. Thank you, Mrs. Katura. Thank you.
The safety of court personnel.
So,
Bragg already received a death threat. So even though the things he's doing might not rise to the level of a crime given the First Amendment, he will have the power to impose a gag order. That's something that everyone's looking to tomorrow. Will he do it or will he wait? For in a very tailored way, because we have the unprecedented situation where someone's running for president. But if he tailors it narrowly and says, look, don't name people by name, don't talk about the case, what has to at the end of the day be invoked is a short stay in jail, because he'll impose the gag order if Trump continues to violate. A warning, another warning, another warning. But at the end of the day, he'll have to say, if Trump continues to be obstreperous, Mr. Trump, next time this happens, I'm going to put you in jail. And having said that, he has no way out. I think it'll be a very long string, but it's just that's the kind of lack of ultimate control, another kind that I had in mind.
Oh yeah, he's going to.
Harry,
he's
I think
going
his
to get himself
lawyer,
into trouble,
Joe
but it's going to
Tacopina,
take
has
a
the same concern. I'm not going to play this, but let me read what he said yesterday. This is Joe Tacopina, quote, "We're not doing anything at the arraignment because that will be showmanship and nothing more." I mean, it sounds like warning received, that they are aware that any antics tomorrow could really jeopardize Trump, the defendant.
Warning received by Joe Tacopina. Warning received by Donald Trump. Who knows? And of course,
fair. That's fair.
He may love this moment. We don't really know, but I gotta imagine jail. You talk about his hair. Just think about that, and in the pokey, that's a bridge too far. I think that has to be something he is really afraid of. And again, the judge has the power in a very tailored way to keep him from threatening people and from polluting the jury pool.
Claire, I think I cut you off.
Exactly. And in the chat, I just want to share, because this is really important. Where was it? Oh, things jump and then I can't see it. Ramona's asking, can the judge tell Trump he's not allowed to leave the state tomorrow? That he can, but I don't believe he will. And
people are asking, why aren't they taking his DNA? Well, the reason they're not taking his DNA and the reason they may not do a mugshot is
I mean, not doing a mugshot
is a process to help identify someone if they commit another crime. In this instance, the government has Donald Trump's DNA, and it's not like he needs a mugshot. Everybody knows who he is, what he looks like.
Yeah.
Maybe the most history-making thing tomorrow, Nicole, is that for the first time in his life, Donald Trump does not want a camera. I'm not sure that's ever happened before. So he likes the idea of being a victim. He likes the idea of fundraising off this. He likes the idea of, enabling his supporters to see him as being persecuted by a government out of control. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure he's excited about them seeing him stand in front of a judge and being accountable to a judge. As Harry just indicated, I mean, he doesn't have complete control. I'm not sure that he would ever go to jail for contempt, but I'm also pretty sure that his lawyers are every day trying to convince him to zip it at least long enough to get this proceeding underway, and in a way that the judge does not start out with limits on his ability to speak.
Yeah, Michael Steele, I want to bring you in on this, and I guess you have shaped and framed my thoughts for the entire 2 hours today. But I do think there is this allergy to being out of control. I mean, the only reason he doesn't want a camera in there is because he wouldn't control the shot. He wouldn't control, the questioning. He would have to be responding to the judge. You understand the charges against you. And I wonder if that diminishment is something that isn't even lost on Donald J. Trump.
No, it's not. I think he's very much aware of that, which is why from 3 weeks ago, he wanted to set in motion at least some level of the terms in which he wants to engage in this process. He wants to have some narratives in place that buffers him, that makes him feel that people will come and fight for him and do the things for him, rally. It doesn't really matter that there's 75 people on the corner. The fact that there's 75 people in the corner, okay, cool. But he knows in the broader network of people who support, and I'll use that term, love him and will do for him, that his sway is even stronger and growing. And that's all that matters for a guy like Trump. It's not about, oh yeah, it's not that he knows this isn't a rally where he needs 25,000 people in a stand to prove a point. He's already proved the point. It proved it 3 weeks ago when he said that he was going to be arrested, not the DA, and everybody went down the rabbit hole with him. And that's where he wants us to be, where that's the space he controls, because he knows what corner he's going to go around next. We don't. And we just kind of follow. And like all good rabbit holes, they go deeper and deeper and turn. And so, yeah, tomorrow is, yeah, he probably doesn't want the cameras in there for a lot of reasons. But beyond that, he's already making his point.
Yeah, and anytime he's not in control, he gets to play the victim card. So he's thinking about how he can spin it to make money.
And that matters more to Donald
So
Trump
that's what
than
he's
75 people in the corner
distracting
who are
himself
there
with.
for cameras
And
in
yes, everything I've picked up says
if
that
the last few minutes
New
of
York,
fame
they're going to do
is
everything by the
speaking
book.
Donald Trump's humility, I just want to add
Everything.
this point, that the much
Cross
maligned
T's, dotted
Trump
I's.
is at the center of all this.
That's why I think there will be a mugshot.
For all
And
of
the only reason I don't think they would take DNA is that they really do already have it.
Prosecutors, he maligned generals, if you remember. And
Becca says, I find it laughable. It's always the bullies who scream that they're the victims. But that's part of their bullying. It's emotional. It's an attempt at emotional manipulation.
District attorney in the last 48
Yeah,
years.
remember Cartman's handy dandy drama triangle?
And by the
Victim,
diversity of the man
persecutor,
and his
victim,
ideology, people are going to feel very
savior,
threatened by that.
persecutor,
Always
victim.
seen, Donald
But
Trump
they always
as
come back down to the
We've
victim.
certainly gone
Yeah.
after him, but I just want folks to remember that at the end of the day,
Of course,
all that
Mrs. New
Donald
York
Trump
requires a
said and did,
mugshot.
it is
Okay.
this black man that brought him back to New York to face accountability. And I think that's just amazing, fitting justice, no matter what happens at the end of the day.
At a time of Alvin Bragg's choosing,
That's
not
exactly
Donald
right.
Trump.
That's exactly right.
I want to come back to the legal part of this story with you, Harry Lippman. I mean, again, I'm not going to play it because we've had to watch live pictures of Donald Trump, but just take my word for it. John Bolton and Bill Barr were on TV making different points about basically how awful it would be if Trump were acquitted. That was John Bolton's central point. And Bill Barr was talking about what a hideous witness Trump would be in his own defense because he can't stop lying. I am paraphrasing both men. I am not quoting either of them, but those were their points. It is such a, talk about rabbit holes. I'm right down there at the bottom of Mueller mania, when everyone said he can't sit down with Mueller or he'd lie and get himself charged with perjury. I mean, everyone knows who he is. The people who saw him up close as our country's commander-in-chief know how pathologically dishonest he is, and how politically craven he is. I mean, I suppose that's John Bolton's point. Does any of that have a legal significance? Are we now in a phase where the legal process simply follows the facts and follows the course of the law?
You bet. And that's how I've been thinking of it, though. Again, it'll be a long time. But I like both Barr and Bolton's point because they're focused on just this process. So think about it. It really is the case. The worst client in the world who's collected, 3,000 lies? What a bloodbath a cross-examination would be. He cannot take the stand. If you think about that in terms of the trial that's upcoming, that means a lot of constraints in how he tries to get evidence forward and how things look, et cetera. So again, if you filter it, this is an exceptional period because everything about the case is going to be braided with, total political Sturm und Drang and a great stress test. But the jury will one day sit, and if you think about how both sides come forward with what they have to say, that's what really matters. There'll be silence until then, and it's a long day, at least public silence by the DA while motions go back and forth and the like. But it's a very significant point, Isbars, that when push comes to shove, this guy can't testify, and it really matters for some of the braggadocio he's showing. That's not going to come out in court. He's totally constrained. So it just seems to me he's making an enormous bet, because everything he does makes his trial legal prospects worse. But he somehow thinks if he can just get by and I guess be elected president, it would be a game changer. And it would, but that's a big bet.
I'm going to ask will Trump lie on the witness stand?
I mean, that's why he fought to stay. It's why he staged January 6th. It's why he wanted the military to seize the voting machines. It was all about shielding himself from legal exposure. And a lot of the books written after his presidency bear that out. All right, I need all of you to stay with us. This can't stop anytime soon. When we come back, the ex-president has made history by being the first president to be criminally indicted. He may make history again by being indicted more than once. We'll talk about that with former January 6th Select Committee member, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, next. And later in the program, while we still don't know these charges coming out of the Manhattan DA's office, we are getting a better, clearer picture about what crimes prosecutors are looking at in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents investigation. There was some incredible new reporting in the Washington Post that we'll tell you about later in the show. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, Janelle says Michael Steele was right, and I'm glad we are back to full screen. What do you mean glad we're back to full screen? Nikki says Nixon was almost indicted, or indicated, as Donald put it. All right, so I wanted to ask, where are we? We're at 1:15. I wanted to ask, will Trump lie on the witness stand on whatever case? Pick one. He will have been warned. Do not lie on the witness stand. Do not, do not, do not. You have been warned. But he's childish. Narcissism is a brutal illness. And he has to look good to his own people so that he can raise money. That's his job. And so he will spin a tale of his perfect life, perfect plans, and be on the defensive. He can get himself in, it's just, his grasp on reality is not. He could tell the truth, he could face the truth if he chose to. But he has benefited mightily in his life by lying. He made it to the presidency. He has a big building in Manhattan with his name on it. Actually, he used to have more than one. So I just dropped a card. Hang on. Card down. Oh. AirPod down. Yes, Spirit Watcher Suzanne. Trump can't handle the truth. He took the, I mean, he was such a follower of Norman Vincent Peale, I believe it was, that I believe Norman Vincent Peale actually officiated his second wedding. Suburban Housewife, thank you so much. Thank you. House Evelyn or Rebecca says he's also playing character. Breaking character breaks the grift he's running. Yes. On his brainless zombie supporters. Yes. The suckers. Yeah. Lisa says he may lie during a documents case, but how can he lie during this one? Oh, this would be the one to lie on. I didn't know anything. They took care of things because it's based on the business records. Alexander says, can he plead the fifth? He can always plead the fifth on any criminal charge. He is the emperor and he must be seen as the emperor. It's infuriating. I can't stand this man, but this is what I'm seeing. So.
For the days and weeks to come, it's worth remembering that the wheels of justice grind very slowly, and this is likely the beginning of the beginning in what is sure to be a long process in efforts to hold the twice impeached, disgraced, now indicted criminally ex-president accountable. Knowing we're only at the start of this, there also comes the realization that there's still a lot we don't know, including the possibility of the ex-president also becoming the first president ever to face multiple indictments. It's possible. As we await the results of investigations into the classified documents he squirreled away at his Mar-a-Lago home and his attempts to overturn the 2020 election result because he lost, as well as potential interference in the Fulton County, Georgia election result. But with all the unknowns, there are things about Trump we do know. Things that for years he's done and will continue to do despite the legal woes he faces. One of them is something that our next guest once coined the big grift. After news of his indictment broke, the former president's campaign claims they raised millions of dollars. In the first 24 hours from his supporters, they're now saying that number is up to $7 million. Joining us, Democratic Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren of California. She served as an impeachment manager during Trump's first impeachment trial and, of course, has made regular appearances on this program to keep us abreast of the work of the January 6th Select Committee. I thought of your public presentation in the January 6th Select Committee's public hearings and the big grift because it's happening again, based on Garrett Hake's reporting from aboard the skies between Palm Beach and Manhattan. Is there any recourse for raising money from someone's political supporters to pay your personal legal bills?
Well, there are FEC issues. There are some rules that you can raise funds in a political campaign and legally use them to defend yourself. I don't know what representations he's made in his emails to his followers, nor whether he has taken the steps necessary to legitimize the expenditure on legal fees.
I just want to throw in anyone who missed it. Becca from House of Lenormand said he flew himself in on Perp Air 1. These fools are sending in their hard-earned money. I can't.
And he's doing that again.
Well, raising money from his core supporters.
Oh, sorry.
The violence at the people who threaten him is a story that the Select Committee investigated and told in its public hearings and its final report. When you see him reposting and disseminating images of a baseball bat and Alvin Bragg's face and raising however much he's raised from his supporters at a time when he faces criminal exposure because of money
You're right, Pretty in Blue. $7 million isn't actually that much in comparison to what he needs. True.
Well, I'm very concerned about his rhetoric, which is actually even more over the top than in the days and weeks and months preceding January 6th. Whether or not his core supporters will respond with the same kind of mob violence that we saw on January 6th, I certainly hope not. And from the press reports, it looks like the social media does not indicate the kind of mob violence that was planned and executed on January 6th. However, we all know that there are unhinged people in our country who do respond to requests to engage in violence. You don't have to have every person who's a supporter of a political candidate to respond. It's just those people who are on the edge, who might be feeling that the president is asking them to take a bat to the district attorney's head. I just think it would be much preferable for our country not to incite violence, to treat this as the way it should be treated. Charges will be unveiled tomorrow.
Yes, they will.
Ex-president is entitled to due process,
Yes, he
a
is.
presumption of innocence unless
Yes, he is.
convicted, and we'll see this play out. I think it's important for all of us to stand up and support our government, our system of government, the Constitution. And unfortunately, once again, it doesn't look like the ex-president is in that spot.
I mean, Alvin Bragg is a particularly intense focus for Trump and his supporters because he's gone first. We've had a lot of conversations about where DOJ was. I guess if we're being fair, Merrick Garland wasn't there until March after the insurrection, but from March until the appointment of Jack Smith, it is clear from the outside that the events and acts that you and your committee investigated.
I got to agree with you, Becca. This man has, what, like 19 golf courses, but they're still sending in money? Yeah. Suckers.
Why didn't you charge the hush money case? Why didn't you ever charge it in 2018, 2019, 2020?
Well, Chuck, I don't want to get into the deliberations that might be covered by grand jury material, but as I believe you know, I was asked by the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District to stand down on our investigation. As someone who respects that office a great deal and believing that they may have perhaps the best laws to investigate, I did so. But I think the question is not so much why didn't I do it or we did it, but why this district attorney is doing it. And that really requires us to be patient and to wait.
Yeah.
This process isn't going to be accelerated by us talking about it. It's going to be moved by the court at the pace the court sees fit, and I guarantee you the court will want this to move quickly.
Have you ever heard of the Southern District of New York or any federal U.S. Attorney's Office telling a local prosecutor to, quote, stand down on something they didn't bring?
Sorry.
Well, I was very alarmed by the testimony or the interview that you just played.
Yep.
You know, I've been involved in cases, for example, when I chair the House Ethics Committee, where we would be investigating a member of Congress, and the Department of Justice would ask us to back off because they were bringing an action, and we always did because we didn't want to ruin their investigation and potential criminal indictment. I've never been a U.S. attorney or in their office, so I don't know what the pattern is, but certainly if the DOJ has a clear path forward and asks a prosecutor to stand pat while they pursue it, that would not be a surprise. But what is a surprise is that they didn't actually pursue that. And then the question is, was it done basically to protect the president? Was it ever their intent to bring this case? And did they interfere with the district attorney's office just to protect the president? That's what came to my mind when I saw that it was a concern.
Yeah, I mean, in the time frame he gives us is 17 and 18. Obviously, Donald Trump was president. Bill Barr was the attorney general. But that office found that Donald Trump coordinated and directed the hush money scheme to two women, Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels, and then told Cy Vance in that 2-year period to stand down. Would you like to know whether or not Merrick Garland looked at the evidence when he became attorney general and that office was no longer under the thumb of Bill Barr?
Well, if he hasn't yet, I imagine the interview yesterday will cause some people to take a look. It's interesting that the department took the position based on an Office of Legal Counsel paper that a sitting president couldn't be indicted, and yet asked the local prosecutor to withhold on their investigation. So I don't know any more than what's been put in the public arena, but this doesn't smell so good. And I think somebody ought to look into it.
From your lips, Congresswoman.
Are we sure that this happened under Barr and it didn't happen under Garland?
Based on the work of your committee, I think there are a lot of
because this would this would be Vance's people going forward, and they're being told to hang on. But I've got, hang on a second. But I've got I've got a far right messenger and a bully, and then there's us sitting, fat, dumb, and happy. Yeah, I think somebody should look into that too. It did happen under Barr. Well, in that case, yeah. But here's the thing. Vance, when did Vance leave? Was Vance there under Bragg at all? Not under, but was Vance? Was there an overlap between the two? I'm not getting great energy from Vance. Becca says then Barr threw Cohen back in prison for writing a book. He tried to. He didn't. He threatened him and said, if you will only be released to house arrest, if you sign this piece of paper saying you will never write a book about the president. And he said no. And then Barr backed down. Yeah, this is us being fat. Yes, Rob D. Vance was Bragg's predecessor. Yes. They said it was 2017, 2018. Okay. Okay. 10 of Wands, Magician, 4 of Cups. Yeah, there was interference. Interference from the far right. Don't look at what's right in front of you. Do what we say. Jeanette says Vance left at the end of 2020. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Then yeah, then that was that. But I still have some hinky energy around Vance. But it could be he's just like that. Just saying. Yeah, I know that. Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Becca says they threw Cohen back in jail in solitary for not signing the paperwork the DOJ sent. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I could be wrong, but my understanding is Cohen was going to be let out, and Barr came in person because they didn't want to. They wanted some kind of deniability. They didn't want to send it through something. So Barr actually went to where Cohen was my understanding. So thank you, Pat McBride. I think I had a non-dairy ice cream drumstick, and then I had 2 vegan corn dogs, and it was glorious. That is comfort food to me. Anyway, all right. Okay. Isabel Moss says they did send him back to jail. Oh, well. Is it? Well, I'll have to look it up. As far as, because I know that Cohen has sued, but I thought I heard something about the suit being thrown out or something. I can't remember. Ricky says Cy Vance's last day was December 31st, 2021. So there was some overlap. It doesn't matter. Yes, Becca. I agree. Okay. Okay, well, anyway, that is going to do it for me for today, but I'm going to be right back here tomorrow. Oh, it's going to be magical. It is going to be magic. It's going to be amazing. So this shark is going to be arraigned, and it's going to be wonderful. And we're going to see all this happen. And we're going to, after all these years of frustration and anger and you name it, we are finally witnessing this, and it's just the beginning. So do remember, you're not alone. We are in this together, and man, oh day, are there good days ahead. And one of them is going to be tomorrow. All right. So hang in there. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you right back here tomorrow. Okay.